Ladies and gentlemen, the deep state thought they'd seen the last of Donald Trump. They celebrated when they stole the 2020 election. They mocked his comeback. They arrested him. And now they're watching in absolute horror as he dismantles their system brick by brick. This isn't politics as usual. This is the complete reconstruction of what America can be. In one single day, Trump called for abolishing the income tax, secured another Supreme Court victory, and watched as 21 states locked arms behind his budget framework. Meanwhile, nearly 70 countries are begging to negotiate new trade deals after Trump's Liberation Day announcement, which featured yours truly, by the way. Even CNN had to admit, he ain't no lame duck. He's a soaring eagle. Don't you love it? And as we step into 2025, one thing is clear. De-dollarization's not stopping. It's accelerating. China and other BRICS nations are scared of President Trump, and it's making them more determined to reduce their dependence on the U.S. dollar and establish themselves as global economic superpowers. Well, what is their secret weapon? Well, it's gold. In fact, China resumed buying gold, and you know what's even more telling? They underreport their buys. Doesn't it make you wonder why? They recognize its global value and ability to withstand economic shocks. Gold is a global asset with innate value. It's tangible, it's reliable, and immune to economic manipulation. China and other BRICS countries, they want to be prepared. They just don't want it known. It's not just about nations, it's about you. So visit nextnewsgold.com. It's linked down below to learn more and find out how you can get 10 free silver coins. Also, the number on the screen, 877-646-5347. Make sure when you call, tell them Next News Network sent you. All right, Scott Bessent on fire, as usual, talking about the remarkable unity that Donald Trump is presenting with the Republican leaders. Check this out.
Joe, what I will tell you is I, along with NEC Chair Hassett, have the pen for the administration. We're in contact with President Trump. We have seen remarkable unity led by the president with the Republican leaders, with Leader Thune, Speaker Johnson, Senator Crapo, and Chairman Jason Smith on this bill, and it's moving very quickly. So I think the underreported story here is the Republican unity that President Trump has. I think we will see the shapes and contours of the bill in the coming weeks and days, but I have been very impressed by how quickly this is moving forward, and this will be the certainty on this. You know, if we go back, everyone wants to talk about, oh, the tariffs are causing uncertainty. Thing I can tell you is getting this tax bill done quickly will give industry and American households incredible certainty.
Because you can actually set your clock to it, unlike the Joe Biden administration, where we never knew what was coming next. And then we have this Attorney General Andrew Bailey in Missouri, leading a 21-state coalition and backing President Trump's support for the Senate amendment to the House budget resolution. It's time for Congress to stand with the American people and fight for secure borders, energy independence, and fiscal sanity. Promises made, promises kept. Here's the document. Here are the receipts. Andrew Bailey on fire, supporting President Trump, leading a 21-state coalition. Where are the rest of the states is the bigger question. And the press secretary on fire today in the press room. Here's what she had to say about Republican lawmakers.
The president will be meeting with Republican lawmakers today here at the White House to talk to them about the framework that the Senate passed. The president was very quick to put out a statement about his support for the reconciliation package that the Senate passed, and he is counting on House Republicans to pass it. The Republicans received an overwhelming mandate from the American public to govern. We have an extraordinary opportunity. There are key promises that the president made to the American people in this bill. Tax cuts, securing the border, deregulation, unleashing the might of American energy. These are good things for the American people. The president wants to see this get done, and that's why he's engaging with lawmakers today.
Engaging with lawmakers is what you got to do, and President Trump, if there's anyone that can bring people together, it's him. We've got this, too. Check this out. Since the Liberation Day announcement, check this out. This is what the press secretary had to say. 70 nations.
Practices in total, since the Liberation Day announcement, nearly 70 countries have already reached out to the president to begin a negotiation.
70 nations. Why? It's because they've been screwing us for decades. And now they know the party is over and their tariffs on our goods aren't going to fly anymore. Yeah, reciprocal tariffs are going to have a massive effect, and it's already working. 70 nations bowing before the United States because we bow to no one.
Countries are falling over themselves to reform their unfair trade practices and free open their markets to our...
They're falling over themselves. Oh, my goodness. I love this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but let's go back. Here we go.
The president to begin a negotiation. Countries are falling over themselves to reform their unfair trade practices and free open their markets to our country. Why? Because these countries greatly respect President Trump in the sheer power of the American market. These countries realize they've gotten filthy rich over the past few decades by imposing substantial tariffs on American-made products and ridiculous non-monetary barriers to block out American industry. The jig is up. Past American presidents sat by and let this happen, but President Trump stood up for our country, and he is saying no more. The president's message has been simple and consistent from the beginning. To countries around the world, bring us your best offers, and he will listen. Deals will only be made if they benefit American workers and address our nation's crippling trade deficits. America does not need other countries as much as other countries need us, and President Trump knows this. He's going to use the leverage of our markets and our country to the advantage of the people he was sworn in to represent. On the other hand, countries like China, who have chosen to retaliate and try to double down on their mistreatment of American workers, are making a mistake. President Trump has a spine of steel, and he will not break, and America will not break under his leadership. He is guided by a firm belief that America must be able to produce essential goods for our own people and export them to the rest of the world. A strong America cannot be solely dependent on foreign countries for our food, medicines, and critical minerals. And America must always maintain a robust defense supply chain. Reprioritizing and strengthening our manufacturing industry are essential national and economic security issues of the utmost importance to President Trump. In total...
China. What do they say? You mess with the bull, you get the horns. Buckle up, China. Here is the press secretary again today on the president's thoughts.
From the severe storm. The president's thoughts also remain with the families and communities experiencing devastating loss from the severe storms and flooding affected several states across the central U.S. President Trump approved emergency declarations for Arkansas, Kentucky, and Tennessee, allowing FEMA to provide federal assistance like equipment and resources to support state and local emergency response officials who are leading this response on the ground.
And you know what? Remember all the national disasters we had under Biden? States screaming for help, issuing emergency declarations, begging FEMA. Where was Joe? Wouldn't even pick up the phone. Donald Trump, boom! Let's go. Already signing the order to help. Let's keep going. Okay, so everyone's screaming about, oh my goodness, a tariff, stock market's down. Well, guess what? It all came back today. It all came back. Stock market's going up because business trusts President Trump's plan. Let's check in with Scott Jennings in the Lion's Den at CNN.
Different here. We think, well, I tend to just listen to the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, who was on television late this afternoon talking about now there's 70 plus countries that are calling up, wanting to discuss how we're going to deal with them in the future. And what I really hope that they wind up doing with those 70 plus countries, and it'll probably be more by tomorrow, is this. Like, listen, you need to understand, we're trying to do something different here. We think we've been taken advantage of, and we're responding to the working class of this country. If you will help us, if you will understand that we can have a fairer system here that's fair to the United States, we can align ourselves against the true enemy, which is China. And if you want to get in bed with China and think they're a trustworthy partner, that is a complete, ridiculous, stupid, terrible idea. Stick with us. Be fair to us and stick with us, and we'll align ourselves against China because they cannot be trusted.
Why should... Well, I mean, just call Hunter Biden, right? He's got friends in China. Okay, let's keep going. We've got more. SCOTUS just ruled in Trump's favor again. They blocked a lower court ruling that ordered the administration to rehire 16,000 federal employees, a massive win for President Trump. And here's Dana Bash being forced to report on it.
So,
at CNN.
We start, though, with breaking news at the Supreme Court. It just handed President Trump another win, allowing his administration to fire hundreds of probationary federal workers. I want to get straight to Paula Reed, who was looking through the decision. Paula, what did they say?
So, Dana, this is a significant win for the administration. The fourth one they have notched from the Supreme Court in just the past few days. Here, this decision is focused on thousands of fired probationary federal workers. Now, this decision will allow the government to keep those individuals off the payroll, while the larger questions about these firings are litigated. Now, this was decided not on a constitutional issue or really on the merits. It was decided on something called standing, which is whether the individuals who brought this lawsuit had the right to do so. And here the court says that the 9 nonprofit organizations did not have standing in this case. So
9 nonprofit organizations, they brought suit. I wonder how much USAID money they were getting.
Again, this is sort of a technical win, but it is still a win for the administration, though it's unclear how this will apply to all fired probationary workers, because a separate judge in Maryland earlier this month ordered a pause and a reinstatement of some employees that are not covered by this case. But I do want to say, Dana, the Justice Department, the Trump administration, they've been waiting for a while for good news from the courts after a string of losses, and they have been getting a lot of good news from the high court over the past few days.
Okay, Paula, stand by, because I do want to come back to you in a short while about other...
Oh, poor Dana Bash being forced to report the good news for the Trump administration. Let's keep going. We got some more wins. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise on this new tax bill, urging his colleagues to move as quickly as possible. Here's Fox Business Steve Scalise.
Look, I've been urging my colleagues in the House to move on this bill as quickly as possible for a lot of reasons. Yeah. One is to get the economy booming. There is a lot of pent up, and you probably talk to people like I do that say there's trillions of dollars sitting on the sidelines waiting to see if there's going to be tax certainty. Because if there's a $4.5 trillion tax hike, meaning if Congress does nothing, that's the kind of taxes that go up on every American. Nobody would be immune from it, and it would crush the economy. Yeah. So we need to get this tax bill in place to give not only certainty to the economy, but to bring that investment back in and get real economic growth. Look,
that's what we need, economic growth. Here is Rapid Response 47. President Trump had a phone call with the president of South Korea talking about their tremendous unsustainable surplus. Tariffs, shipbuilding, large-scale purchase of U.S. LNG, their joint venture in Alaska pipeline, payment for the big-time military protection we provide South Korea. They began these military payments during my first term, billions of dollars, but sleepy Joe Biden, for reasons unknown, terminated the deal. President Trump on Truth Social continues. That was a shocker to all. In any event, we have the confines and probability of a great deal for both countries. Their top team is on a plane heading to the U.S., and things are looking good. We are likewise dealing with many other countries, all of whom want to make a deal with the United States. Like with South Korea, we're bringing up other subjects that are not covered by trade and tariffs and getting them negotiated. Also, one-stop shopping is a beautiful and efficient process. China also wants to make a deal badly, but they don't know how to get it started. Call Hunter Biden. He's the guy. He's got all the friends in China. I kid. Trump continues. We are waiting for their call. It will happen. God bless the USA. We've also got Byron Donalds talking about the message is clear.
Paying job. I will say that while China might be saber rattling, there are a lot of other nations who are coming to the table. And look, I think the message is pretty clear at this point. If you want to come to the table and negotiate the future of trade with the United States, then I think the president and his team are definitely open to do that. But if you want to retaliate and saber rattle, then the president is more than willing to continue go down the road of tariff policy. And the reason why is very simple. For decades, many countries were building their economies on the back of the American economy. And it worked well about 30, 40 years years ago when we had cheaper goods in the United States. But when the actual wealth creation process in our country was moving overseas, you have less jobs, you have less high-paying jobs, and you have other countries getting rich while Americans are trying to basically tread water. You couple that with the fact that we've had too many people on Capitol Hill overspending, creating inflation, decreasing the purchasing power of our dollar here in the United States, and it's not the recipe for consistent economic growth. So in short, if you want to come to the table and negotiate like many countries are doing right now, the president and his team are open for business and they're willing to talk.
Open for business. America is open for business. Under Joe Biden, nobody knew what the hell was going on. And finally, we have a deal maker in chief negotiating with 70 nations to open up their markets to American goods. Get ready. It is going to be an American golden age like we've never seen before. Let's keep going. Byron Donalds, nailing it there. We got Tom Emmer posting this. If Congress allows the 2017 Trump tax cuts to expire, the American people will face the largest tax increase in history.
Maria,
I think that we've got a good chance at this.
The tax bill that was passed and signed into law back in December of 2017, commonly referred to as the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, Maria, that bill actually benefited every American who made $10,000 or more. It is imperative that this get established as a permanent tax code here in the United States so that everyone can get that benefit. If we don't, we're going to look at a $4 to $5 trillion tax increase. So that's the challenge that our members are faced with who are having this discussion about do you pay for them? Are you just continuing current policy, et cetera? At the end of the day, this is preventing the largest tax increase in the history of this country.
So why is it even a discussion? Why does it even have to be debated? Let's just keep Trump's tax cuts in place and ride the wave, folks. I don't even know why it's up for debate. But I guess that's how the House of Representatives has to work. They have to go back and forth, blah, 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 blah. Here's CNN's Harry Enton. I love this guy. On President Trump's historic effort to make America great again. I love these clips because it's like CNN, like being forced to swallow the truth.
Point in a president. I think there was this concern among some folks that Donald Trump would come in for a second term and kind of be a lame duck. He ain't no lame duck. If anything, he's a soaring eagle. What am I talking about here? Let's talk about Trump executive orders in 2025. He's already signed 111 so far. That is the most at this point in a presidency in at least 100 years. In fact, it's the most in any single year, and we're only in April, since Harry S. Truman in the early 1950s. The bottom line is whether you like Trump or you don't like him, you can't say that he's come in and not try to deliver on what he at least believes was his promises on the campaign trail, and he's doing so in historic fashion.
How are people reacting to and feel about Trump's approach?
Yeah, okay. So Trump's approach here, what are we talking about? Trump's approach to presidential power. I think the American people recognize what he's doing here is completely different. We're talking, get this, 86% of the American public believes that Trump's approach to presidential power is completely different from past presidents, compared to only 14% who believe it is in line with precedent. And we're talking about at least 79% of Democrats, independents, and Republicans. So again, you can agree or you can disagree with Donald Trump, but what you can't disagree with is that he's doing things very differently. I have used the Frank Sinatra quote before. He is doing it, quote unquote, my way, and that is what Donald Trump has done throughout both of his presidential terms, and he's certainly doing that, Kate Baldwin, in term number 2.
So
I think
he's actually doing it the American way, buddy. Let's get it clear. Let's keep going. This is my president right here. What's this about?
First of all, it's spin. I think I'm going to stand. This chair is the most uncomfortable chair I've ever. First of all, it spins. And the one thing I don't want is to fall on my ass, because that's going to be, that will be the only story. They'll say, sir, you did great. Too bad you fell. That would be the only story. So I'm not sitting in that sucker. I think it's a booby trap. That was put there by Kamala. Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah, you got to love him. You got to love him. Here's President Trump. He wasn't joking. He called for Congress to abolish the income tax, baby. Let's go.
1870, America is going to be very rich again, and it's going to happen very quickly. It's time for the United States to return to the system that made us richer and more powerful than ever before. Do you know the United States in 1870 to 1913, all tariffs, and that was the richest period in the history of the United States, relatively speaking. In other words, relatively. And they set up the Great Tariff Commission of 1887, and this commission had one function: what to do with all the money that we took in. It was so enormous that they had no idea. It was a blue ribbon committee. It was set up 1887, and what to do with all of the money that we had. And again, Teddy Roosevelt was a beneficiary, because when McKinley was killed, he took over this vast sum of money, and he did all of those national parks and all of the other things. And I'm not knocking him, but he was given a vast amount of money, and that was all made through tariffs. We had no income tax. The income tax came in 1913. As I said in my speech last week, instead of taxing our citizens to enrich foreign nations, we should be tariffing and taxing foreign nations to enrich our citizens. Does that make sense, right? America is going to be very rich again.
Get rid of the income tax. It's long overdue. Let's get that External Revenue Service kicked in. So the evidence is undeniable, folks. President Trump isn't just winning. He's rewriting America's future at a pace that has the establishment in absolute panic. So think about what we're witnessing. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise confirmed that trillions of dollars are sitting on the sidelines waiting for Trump's tax cuts to be extended. Attorney General Andrew Bailey has rallied 21 states behind Trump's fiscal framework, and Supreme Court victories are stacking up faster than the media can spin them. It's not just politics, it's a generational realignment. So here's the question for you guys in the comment section. Are we witnessing the final days of the income tax system as we know it? Could Trump actually succeed where others have only talked about reforming the tax code? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and show your support for Trump's America First agenda with our exclusive Next News swag available in the merch shop linked down below.